Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a case that has captured widespread attention, the ongoing situation involving Sean Diddy Combs, federal raids, serious allegations, and a whirlwind of media speculation. But amidst all the noise, a fundamental legal principle stands: innocent until proven guilty. So the question on many minds, is Diddy innocent? Legally, the answer right now is yes. But that's just the starting point of a complex legal journey. In this video, we're not going to speculate on guilt or innocence in the way the court of public opinion often does. Instead, we're going to break down, first, what innocent until proven guilty actually means in the American legal system. Second, the nature of the allegations and investigations as far as public information allows. Third, the significance of federal raids, what they indicate and what they don't. Fourth, the crucial distinction between civil lawsuits and criminal investigations charges. Fifth, the potential legal road ahead, what steps might follow. Sixth, the profound impact of media and social media on such high-profile cases. And, finally, why due process is critical, regardless of who is involved. This is going to be a detailed discussion, so grab a coffee and let's unpack the legal realities surrounding the Diddy case. And as always, remember, this is for educational and informational purposes, not legal advice for any specific situation. All right, let's start with the bedrock of our justice system, the presumption of innocence. You hear it all the time: innocent until proven guilty. But what does that mean from a lawyer's perspective? It's a legal right. This isn't just a nice idea. It's a fundamental right typically enshrined within a country's due process laws, tracing its roots back centuries. In the US, it's deeply embedded in our constitutional framework, particularly the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments. Critically, the presumption of innocence places the burden of proof squarely on the prosecution, that is, the government, state or federal. The accused doesn't have to prove their innocence, the government has to prove their guilt. And that proof isn't just any proof. In a criminal case, the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. This is the highest standard of proof in our legal system. It doesn't mean beyond any doubt or a shadow of a doubt, but it means that after hearing all the evidence, a juror must be firmly convinced of the defendant's guilt. If there's a reasonable doubt, they must acquit. Why is this so important? It's a safeguard against wrongful convictions. It protects individuals from the immense power of the state. It forces the government to build a strong, compelling case before it can deprive someone of their liberty. Imagine a system where you had to prove your innocence. It would be incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for many. So, when we ask, is Diddy innocent? Legally, yes. He has not been charged with a crime, let alone convicted. The presumption of innocence is fully intact. The investigations are ongoing, and it's the investigator's job to gather evidence that might eventually lead to charges and an attempt to overcome that presumption in court. Now let's touch upon what has brought us to this point. It's important to preface this by saying that much of the information is from media reports and civil lawsuit filings. We, the public, don't have access to the full picture that investigators might. There have been several civil lawsuits filed against Mr. Combs, alleging serious misconduct, including sexual assault and trafficking. One notable lawsuit by Cassandra Ventura, also known as Cassie, was settled shortly after being filed. It's crucial to understand that a settlement is not an admission of guilt. Parties settle lawsuits for many reasons: to avoid the cost and uncertainty of litigation, to protect privacy, or for business reasons. The terms of these settlements are usually confidential. Other lawsuits remain pending, making similar or related allegations. More recently, federal agents, reportedly from Homeland Security investigations, conducted raids on Mr. Combs' properties in Los Angeles and Miami. This is a significant development. Reports suggest the federal investigation is looking into allegations of sex trafficking, among other potential federal offenses. Sex trafficking is a very serious federal crime. It's vital to separate the allegations made in civil suits from any potential criminal charges. They operate under different rules, different burdens of proof, and have different potential outcomes. The images of federal agents raiding high-profile properties are dramatic. But what does a raid legally signify? To conduct a search like this, law enforcement needs a search warrant. A search warrant is an order issued by a judge or magistrate. To get a warrant, law enforcement must demonstrate to the judge that there is probable cause to believe that, first, a crime has been committed, and second, evidence related to that crime will be found at the location to be searched. Probable cause is a lower standard than beyond a reasonable doubt. It means a reasonable basis for believing something. So the issuance of a search warrant means a judge found sufficient reason to believe evidence of a crime might be present. What a raid is not. It is not an arrest, though arrests can sometimes happen during raids if circumstances warrant. Mr. Combs was not arrested during these raids. It is not a finding of guilt. It is not an indictment or formal charges. The purpose of a raid is to gather evidence, documents, electronic devices, financial records, any physical evidence that could be relevant to the ongoing investigation. Often the affidavit, the sworn statement by law enforcement detailing the probable cause, is sealed to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigation. This means the public, and even sometimes the target of the search initially, doesn't know the exact basis for the warrant. So the raids on Diddy's properties indicate that a federal judge found probable cause to believe evidence of federal crimes might be located there. This is a serious step in an investigation, but it's still part of the investigative phase, not the adjudicative trial phase. This is a point that often causes confusion, so let's clarify. We have civil lawsuits on one hand and a federal criminal investigation on the other. These are two separate tracks. In civil cases, the parties involved are the plaintiff, the person suing, e.g. an alleged victim, versus the defendant, the person being sued, e.g. Diddy. The goal is usually monetary damages or other civil remedies. In criminal cases, it's the government, e.g. United States of America or the people of the state, versus the defendant. The goal is punishment, fines, imprisonment, and to uphold public law. The burden of proof in civil cases is usually preponderance of the evidence. This means the plaintiff must prove it's more likely than not, think 50.1%, that their claims are true, a much lower bar than criminal cases. In criminal cases, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, as we discussed. The outcomes in civil cases can be a judgment for the plaintiff, damages awarded, or judgment for the defendant, or a settlement. In criminal cases, outcomes are conviction, guilty verdict, plea, leading to sentencing, or acquittal, not guilty verdict. Regarding overlap and interaction, evidence from a civil case can sometimes be relevant in a criminal investigation and vice versa, but they are handled separately. A person can be found liable in a civil case, but not guilty in a criminal case for the same underlying conduct. This is because of the different burdens of proof. A settlement in a civil case, like Cassie's, has no direct legal bearing on whether criminal charges will be filed, although the allegations themselves might inform an ongoing investigation. In Diddy's situation, he faces multiple civil lawsuits while simultaneously being the subject of a federal criminal investigation. These are proceeding on parallel but distinct legal paths. So what happens next in the federal criminal investigation? This is a general roadmap, as specifics can vary. First, evidence review. After the raids, investigators will meticulously review all seized materials. This can take a long time, especially with electronic devices. They'll be looking for evidence to corroborate allegations or uncover new information. Second, further investigation. This may involve interviewing witnesses, issuing subpoenas for more records, or conducting surveillance. Third, grand jury. If prosecutors believe they have sufficient evidence to establish probable cause that a federal crime was committed by a specific individual, they will present their case to a federal grand jury. A grand jury is a group of citizens who hear evidence in secret and decide whether there's enough evidence to formally charge someone with a crime, issue an indictment. It's an investigative tool for the prosecution. the defense is typically not present. The standard for a grand jury to indict is probable cause, again lower than beyond a reasonable doubt. Fourth, indictment or no charges. If the grand jury indicts, formal criminal charges are filed. If they don't indict, a no bill, or if prosecutors decide not to even seek an indictment, then no federal criminal charges are filed from this investigation. Fifth, if indicted, arrest and arraignment. If indicted, an arrest warrant is usually issued. The defendant is arrested or surrenders and brought before a judge for an arraignment. At arraignment, the charges are read, the defendant enters a plea, usually not guilty at this stage, and bail is addressed. Sixth, pre-trial phase. This involves discovery, exchange of evidence between prosecution and defense, pre-trial motions, e.g., motions to suppress evidence, and potentially plea negotiations. Finally, trial or plea. If no plea agreement is reached, the case proceeds to trial, where the prosecution must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury or judge in a bench trial. This entire process, from investigation to a potential trial, can take months, if not years. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The impact of media and social media on high-profile cases. In today's interconnected world, legal proceedings, especially those involving public figures, rarely unfold in a vacuum. The media and social media play an increasingly significant role in shaping public perception, often creating a parallel trial that can have profound consequences. The amplification effect. When allegations surface against a high-profile individual like Diddy, traditional news outlets jump on the story, and social media platforms explode with discussions, opinions, and often speculation. Every new development, every raid, every civil filing is amplified instantly and globally. This amplification means that allegations, even unproven ones, can quickly become widely accepted facts in the public consciousness, long before any legal determination. Trial by media. This phenomenon refers to the situation where a person is tried and convicted in the public eye, often through sensationalized reporting or unchecked online commentary, rather than through the formal legal process. The court of public opinion operates without rules of evidence, without cross-examination, and crucially without the presumption of innocence. Opinions are formed based on headlines, snippets, and emotional responses, rather than the rigorous scrutiny of facts required in a courtroom. Challenges for the defense. For the legal team representing a high-profile defendant, the battle extends far beyond the courtroom. They must not only prepare for the legal arguments and evidence presentation, but also manage the intense public relations fallout. This often involves issuing statements, advising their client on public appearances, and attempting to counter negative narratives. The constant media scrutiny can make it difficult to find unbiased jurors, and the pressure on all parties involved can be immense. Information versus speculation. One of the biggest challenges for the public is distinguishing between verified information and unsubstantiated claims or rumors. In the rush to report or comment, the line between fact and speculation can become blurred. Social media, in particular, thrives on rapid dissemination, where unverified claims can go viral, making it difficult for individuals to critically assess the information they consume. Ethical considerations. This environment places a significant ethical burden on media outlets to report responsibly, focusing on verified facts and clearly distinguishing between allegations and proven guilt. Similarly, individuals on social media have a responsibility to consider the impact of their comments and to avoid perpetuating misinformation, especially when someone's reputation and legal rights are at stake. While freedom of speech is paramount, it also comes with the responsibility to be discerning and respectful of due process. Finally, let's talk about due process and its collision with the court of public opinion. Due process is the legal requirement that the state must respect all legal rights owed to a person. It ensures fundamental fairness. It includes the presumption of innocence, the right to counsel, the right to a fair trial, the right to confront accusers, etc. These protections are for everyone, regardless of how famous they are or how heinous the allegations against them might seem. The court of public opinion, in high-profile cases, often forms quickly based on media reports, social media, and the nature of the allegations. It's understandable. These are serious and disturbing claims. However, the court of public opinion operates without the rules of evidence, without cross-examination, without the presumption of innocence. The challenge. As a society, and particularly as legal professionals, it's crucial to distinguish between the two. While public outrage or support can be powerful, it cannot and should not dictate the outcome of a legal proceeding. The legal system, for all its imperfections, is designed to seek truth through a structured, evidence-based process. Regardless of the legal outcome, allegations of this nature can have a devastating and lasting impact on someone's reputation and career. This is an undeniable reality, but it's separate from legal guilt. Our system is designed to protect the innocent from wrongful conviction, even if it means that sometimes the guilty might go free due to insufficient evidence. That's the balance our system has struck to protect individual liberty. So, to circle back to our initial question, is Diddy innocent? Legally at this moment, yes, he is presumed innocent. A serious federal investigation is underway, and he is facing multiple civil lawsuits. These are distinct processes with different standards and potential outcomes. The raids signify that investigators convinced a judge of probable cause to search for evidence of federal crimes. This is a step in the investigation, not a conclusion. The intense media and social media scrutiny add another layer of complexity, often creating a public narrative that runs parallel to, but distinctly from, the legal process. What happens next will depend on what, if any, evidence is found, and whether prosecutors believe they can meet the high burden of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a complex situation, and it will likely unfold over a considerable period. It's a stark reminder of the importance of understanding our legal principles, the presumption of innocence, the burden of proof, and due process, especially when public emotions run high. Thank you for joining me for this detailed breakdown. I hope this has provided some clarity on the legal framework surrounding this case. If you found this helpful, please give the video a like, subscribe for more legal analysis, and share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. What aspects of this are most confusing or interesting to you? Stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video.